are live.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Trotwood-Madison Board of Education regular meeting Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Live streamed via YouTube in accordance with COVID-19 recommendations at 5:40 p.m. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes, the meeting has now been called to order. Ms. Bozeman, could you please lead us in a pledge of allegiance? Everybody else is on mute. Thank you.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any changes? Addendums, additions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Scarce?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes, the agenda has now been adopted. Next up, we have a presentation this evening. I'm very, very excited about it. It's item 2A, Beyond PPE, and it's presented by Dr. Vanessa Edwards. And before Dr. Edwards starts, I'll tell you a little bit about her. And board, I believe there was a document that was attached within the agenda giving you an overview of Dr. Edwards. Dr. Edwards is a licensed neuropathic doctor and acupuncturist in Dayton, Ohio. She practices at the Rafa House Wellness Center. She began her journey of natural healing in 1994. She was first trained as a health minister with Hallelujah Acres. At that time, she taught classes and seminars on nutrition and health. In 1994, Dr. Edwards graduated from the Southwest College of Neuropathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona, with a doctorate in natural medicine. Upon completion of her doctorates, she received a master's degree in Chinese medicine and acupuncture from Rainstar University in Guilin Hospital, Beijing, China. As a student, she noticed that many of the modalities she learned somehow took her back to the healing of the gut. After working with patients for over 15 years, she's seen this to be true. Getting back to the basic principles in life helps restore intestinal health, which leads to optimal health. One of the basic principles she recommends is fasting. This led her to publish her first book. Dr. Edwards is a Bible teacher at Soundwords Christian Education. She is a sought-after speaker at medical conferences, universities, churches, radio broadcasts, and cancer awareness groups. Dr. Edwards has volunteer expertise on many medical missions, offering neuropathic healthcare, acupuncture in Mexico, Ukraine, Romania, South Africa, Philippines, Haiti, and Dominican Republic. It's my honor to welcome you, Dr. Vanessa Edwards.
Hi, thank you for that. And thank you all for having me today. And so I just want to take a few minutes of your time to kind of go over some things that have been on my heart. And so as you all know, we're facing some very challenging times. Equipping our bodies with the nutrients that it needs to optimize our immune system is a key to fighting and winning in this pandemic. So as you are well aware that the coronavirus has changed the world as we know it. So every person on earth has been affected by this virus. So teachers, staff members are concerned about returning to work. Parents are concerned about sending their students back into the classroom. Virtual learning, may be working for some, but for many, it's not. So therefore, students will be returning to the classrooms. So being on the front lines during this pandemic can create an enormous amount of stress. What teachers and staff do is essential for this nation to get through this. Yet it is important that they and their families and children remain healthy. The virus has been examined and looked at extensively. What type of virus is it? How it spreads? Who's affected by it? What symptoms it causes? How do we stop the spread? What medication will kill it? How long will it take to get a vaccine? While these questions are necessary, along with the answers, are we still missing something? Are there other questions that should be asked and answered? When I first started hearing about the coronavirus, I immediately compared the statistics of the virus to influenza. I didn't think it was such a big deal. Then upon further investigation, I began to see the cause of the urgency. This led me to look for evidence-based research that would optimize the immune system. It led me to ask a different question. Why are some people's immune systems able to mount a correct response to the virus while either having no symptoms or mild symptoms that can be managed at home, compared to those who have an exaggerated or a hyperimmune response and have to be hospitalized? I have spent countless hours combing through research papers, articles, and have found evidence-based natural approaches that can help optimize the immune system, and I would like to share these findings with you. I would like to provide professional development sessions that would help teachers, staff, students, and parents feel more comfortable about entering the school building and allow parents to feel more comfortable about letting their children play sports during this pandemic. The professional development sessions will include things like how sleep plays a role in optimizing your immune system, evidence-based ways to support your body's natural defense system through food and supplementation, as well as mask hygiene, and that's tips on how to wear and care for masks. So one example I would like to use was there's a study that actually came out on am I still here? Yeah, there we go. There's a study that just came out September the 3rd. And personally, I just think it should be on the news. It should be on CNN because it was a wonderful study. And I have not heard it from other sources other than people that are naturopathic doctors. And so basically, the University of Chicago did a test, did some studies, and what they found was those that were deficient in vitamin D, so their vitamin D levels were less than 20, they had a higher chance of actually contracting COVID-19. But those whose levels were higher than 20, so the higher the number, the higher the average of the vitamin D levels, the less positive cases there were. So optimal range for vitamin D levels for me are about 70. And so those that had vitamin D levels in the 70 range, only 3 or 4 of those people actually tested positive for COVID-19. So this is information that is very crucial, that needs to be out. Many African Americans or people of color, not just African Americans, but people of color, we are very, very deficient in vitamin D because we get vitamin D from the sun. All of us get vitamin D from the sun. And so if we have melanin in our skin, that blocks the production of vitamin D. So these are some things that I have learned. There's some other nutrients that I have been doing some investigating as well and would like to get this information out. And I think it would help staff, it would help parents, it would help teachers to kind of feel more comfortable if they knew that there were some things that they can do themselves to help build up their immune system and optimize their immune system. So if they did come in contact with a virus, their body may be able to rid of it totally without having symptoms, or they will be able to manage things at home without having to be hospitalized.
That's a lot of good information. I'm going to open it up to the board. Are there any questions, board?
Yes, Dr. Edwards, you were mentioning that for you the vitamin D range was around 70, or score was around 70. Is that typical, or is that a personalized thing and everybody's varies differently from that range or from that number, or how's that work?
Yeah, so that's the goal. Is 70. Most people, when I test them, they're 11, 13. They're less than 20. Yes, very, very low. Yes, and so now we're in autumn, we're in fall, and we're getting ready to go into winter. So the amount of sun that we're going to be getting on a regular basis is about to decrease for sure. So if you're not supplementing with vitamin D, your levels are going to drop drastically. And so if you don't know this information, then your vitamin D levels are going to go down. Okay,
because I had read something a few weeks ago similar, if it wasn't that study, and they were encouraging people of color to use less sunblock and less sunscreen because of the importance of absorbing more vitamin D, especially in this era.
Yes.
But with your the PD sessions that you're proposing, would any of those be open to students, or would it just mainly be for staff and administrators to then take that information and work with it with the student body, or would there be programs that students could attend as well, or could attend some of these as well?
I would like to be open to students, parents, teachers, staff, but I'm willing to follow the guidelines that you all propose. But yeah, the more, the merrier.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Any other questions, board? I especially thought the information was very, very interesting. I know, being in the healthcare field, vitamin D levels are essential. As a matter of fact, I had mine tested and mine was a 15. Okay. So it's interesting that I am on prescription medication now for that. Okay. A prescription vitamin, right? Imagine that. But even with that said, and I'm glad you used that one as an example. I can't wait to hear about all the other information that you have concerning optimal health. But that one in particular is near and dear to my heart, because I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but vitamin D deficiencies are responsible for 17 different types of cancer, the top 3, breast, colon, and prostate. So, something as simple as sun, okay, can make a huge difference in our lives. And thank you so much. And I'm a 74 now, so I'm excited about that. That means
That is really good.
I have mitigated my risk for COVID, but
Yes.
I appreciate that. Dr. Cosby, I know this is some good information. We're looking at eventually getting kids back in the district into a blended learning, and then we'll go from there. Our staff is already in the district. So we want to make sure that not only do we equip people with proper equipment, PPE, that sort of thing, because I know your talk was beyond PPE. We want to make sure that we just educate people on how they can be well and stay well.
Yeah, I was really interested, Dr. Edwards. I think there are a lot of things that we can do that we just don't necessarily know about that may make a difference in our health status. So I appreciated hearing what you said. I'll have to check my vitamin D levels because I don't know what they are. So yeah, thank you. And I will get with you about that possibility of maybe, meeting with their teachers, because as we said, they're already here. And I know once things potentially open up at some point, maybe then you can meet with other people if we're talking about doing it in the district, or maybe we could find places outside of the district that they would like to hear from you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Edwards. We appreciate you. We've passed the information on to the superintendent, and hopefully, like I said, there's an opportunity for some professional development. And I don't even know if the board's even open for this type of information at our next retreat or at a retreat going down the road, because this is not just for, staff and students. This is for all of us.
Yes.
And so, if the board's pleasure, I'll get in touch with Dr. Edwards as well, and we'll set up a session for the board. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You all have a great day too. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Next up, we have community comments, and Ms. Allen.
Yes. Before I indicate the person that wants to speak, I would like to read the procedure for addressing the Board of Education. Obviously, they can't complete a request, but that request was received by an email to me this evening. When called upon, identify yourself and state the reason for addressing the board. Address the board as a whole through the president and not board members individually. Limit remarks to 3 minutes. No extensions will be granted. When your time is up, you are to stop speaking. It is inappropriate to address any matter involving pending disputes, grievances under a labor agreement. Disciplinary action involving an employee or a student in outgoing labor negotiations. The purpose of the community comments portion of the meeting is for members of the public to express viewpoints and public concerns. So I did have a request by Angela Bruno, and I think she is on the line.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Good evening, board and administrative staff and our viewers on YouTube. This is a bit different situation, so I hope you implore me in my comments that I have prepared this evening. I have a concern that the board does not support extracurricular and student activities, as was stated in the September 3rd, 2020 Board of Ed meeting within the presentation of the reopening plan, which lifted the prior suspension of athletics and extracurricular activities. I should also mention that I am speaking tonight as the president of our Trotwood-Madison Education Association. Tonight, the personnel agenda that was on for the information at the September 3rd Board of Ed meeting is very different from the personnel agenda on board docs tonight. The difference is such that almost all student activity advisor and teacher contracts have been removed, and only athletic supplemental contracts are on for approval. Our collective bargaining agreement states in Article 1505Q that clubs must be established and approved by October 1st of each school year to qualify for the supplemental contract. TMEA is concerned about the approval of the personnel agenda at tonight's Board of Ed meeting. These positions are vital to students' engagement in our educational process. Many of our students are not involved in athletics, whose coaching positions are up for approval tonight, and these clubs and activities give students an outlet and a sense of belonging. As our contract states, all supplemental contracts must be approved by October 1, and tonight is the last board meeting of the month. The decision tonight impacts the entire 2020-2021 school year. We are all hopeful that at some time we can return to in-person learning in the safest environment setting possible, and these activities are an important piece of bringing normalcy back for our students. Our clubs, activities, and groups have about the same number of students as are involved in athletics, if not more, and just as they can exist during this time, so can student activities. As a staff, the TMEA members have been pioneers in creating platforms and strategies to implement our curriculum and teaching virtually. The same can occur with extracurricular activities. In an effort to make a positive impact on the lives of our students and to ensure equity and inclusion, we earnestly implore the board to reconsider its decision regarding the approval of extracurricular activities and supplemental contracts.
Thank you, Ms. Bruno. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Thank you for this time tonight. Everybody have a wonderful evening.
You too as well. Next up, we are on item 4, and item 4 would be the consent agenda. 4A, approval of Neola policy updates, 38.2, winter 2020, 39.1, and fall 2020. Item B is approval of the meeting minutes from August 6, 2020, August 20, 2020. Item C is approval of school resource officer contract. Item D is the approval of Catapult Learning West LLC Title I contract. And item E is approval of the Warren County ESC contract. I need a motion. Anyone? Can I get a motion on the floor?
So moved.
I move.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
I second. I couldn't get unmuted.
Okay, I have a second. Miss Allen, I even got a third. Okay. Are there any questions on any of the items? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Jeter Freeman has a question.
Yeah, on the policies, Ms. Bozeman did recommend that all of the board look at those policies. And one of them is on the attendance and the distance learning. So do we change the policy back after we come back? We have one we're recommending putting in place. Is it just?
Yeah, we'll probably have to adjust it when we come back. Am I on mute? Yeah, we'll have to adjust it when we come back.
Okay. And on the student fees, we really didn't change anything, right? The wording.
We're just putting it in so that in the event that we do go back to student fees, it is a policy.
Okay. And then on the resource officer, so we're not in school for the first 9 weeks. So I don't know if the resource officer has performed anything. So are we prorating that contract, or do we even need that contract?
The resource officer is still monitoring our schools and doing things like going out and making checks at homes as needed. So the resource officer is being active at this point. It's not the same level of activity for sure, that you would have with the students there. But we have, as we said, we repurposed a lot of positions in that one as well. So it's more of making sure that things are happening like they're supposed to in our buildings. We do still have, 300 plus, people coming into work. So we are using the resource officer.
Yeah, I think my only concern, if we would have him going to the homes, I would hate, and I'm going to say that, I'm sure our resource officer know the right protocol, but I guess it's under what circumstances would we have him showing up to a home? It's a police car, I happen to have,
right.
Yeah, so.
I understand what you're saying.
It is Black Lives Matter. We're predominantly Black, and the police officer would be going in that neighborhood. And so that's my concern, and I'd just like to share that.
I appreciate that, and we can, have a discussion with the school resource officer to make sure, why they're going, how they're going, and the fact that contact has been tried to be made, for students before he would do anything like that. But I do know, because I asked this question about our school resource officer, he's been with us now for more than a year. He did start out as like a straight, police officer, and, so that's what he came doing, policing. But my understanding from my administrative team that's worked with him is that he understands that the idea of a school resource officer is that you try to build relationships with with their staff and with their students. And so it is a different way of, doing things. It's not the type of policing that we see, on the streets. So I can still, have a meeting with their school resource officer and have this discussion about how what's happening with Black Lives Matter and the perception, of policing, and talk about how will he make sure that there's never any concern about why he would be going to someone's home.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, Dr. Cosby. In light of everything that's been going on,
Yes.
one of the things I think that's come out consistently across the nation as, calls come out for a different type of training for the police is the fact that they're really not trained for what amounts to something close to 90% of the things that they actually are called upon to deal with, which are social issues, mental health, and other kinds of people in crisis, people under stress, kinds of behaviors. And so I think that'd be very appropriate.
If I can,
I'll make sure that happens.
if I can kind of tag on to what Mrs. Freeman was saying, unless he's going as a plainclothes person, not in a cruiser, I don't think he should be going to students' houses, period. Like, I don't understand why that would not be an administrator or a teacher of some kind. And under what circumstances would he ever go to a student's house? Like, what is an example?
We do have our teachers are going out to do things like testing, as necessary if they can't connect with the students on internet. But let's say we're trying to find a family and we're delivering food and nobody can come up with them and he's available. And he says, okay, I'll go. But if you would like for me to talk with the police department about seeing if we can have him in plain clothes, that's something I can look into.
I think these particular circumstances would almost call for it, especially if we're going to be paying his salary for them. I think if he's going to students' houses, he doesn't need to be in a police cruiser and he doesn't need to be in a police uniform. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vice President Bozeman, did you have something? I know that.
I was just thinking that I agree with that. I do echo those comments, and this could be an opportunity to even act as almost like a healing, between some of the Black students and the police department if we could not have the police going to their homes in uniforms and in police cruisers. I think that could be problematic, and I think we should do some thinking about that.
Thank you. I'm definitely taking all of this under advisement and then we'll get on it.
Okay, wonderful. Ms. Freeman, thank you for bringing that up. I think that is something that in the back of our minds, I know that Dr. Cosby, we originally talked about that resource officer and some of the things that he would be doing. And also, I want to reiterate that, Dr. Cosby, this is week 5 of school. Is that correct for us?
We started on the 24th. You know what? It's week 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I have their calendar directly with them.
Yeah, I think it's week 5, okay? Because after Labor Day was week 1 for most school districts, but week 3
for us. Yeah. Well, it would have been going into our 3rd week.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because we all know that this is a 9-week period, one grading period, where we're flushing things out. And also the goal is to bring students back in this district in a blended manner and in a very safe manner. So, I don't want to lose sight of what we're doing right now. It may be very, very temporary. So this is week 5. We're more than halfway through. 4. Okay. So we're about, almost halfway through the 9-week trial period of what we initially set out to do. So thank you. And I agree with my counterparts about the resource officer. I believe that we have to be very sensitive in light of what is going on in the world around us. And especially when it comes to our kids, we have to make sure that we turn over every stone and we evaluate and reevaluate how we repurpose people, use them in a way that makes sense. So thank you. I have motions. Any other questions? Any other concerns or comments from the board? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Scarce,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. The consent agenda has been approved. Before I move on to the other item, though, Mr. Scarce said something about we pay the salary. We pay 50%. Is that correct, Ms. Allen?
Last year, it was some of the cost was supplemented by a safety grant. This year, at this point, we have not gotten a safety grant. So right now, we're going to be paying for that out of general fund. But if there are other grant dollars that we can use, we can offset that total cost.
Okay, let's further discuss that. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next item, item 5, which is the treasurer's report. Ms. Allen, please.
Yes, we did have a finance committee meeting this evening at 4:30 with my finance committee board members, Vanessa Jeter Freeman and board member Scarce. So I do have 3 items to present to you for approval as part of the financial packet. I did include your financial packet in board docs if you want to look at that further, and also did send you a copy. So the first one is the cash reconciliation for the month of August. You can see the PNC general account balance, and you can see your investment balances, and those two total $33,103,175.18. We did have we do have some outstanding vendor checks, and then we do have 2 reconciling items or adjustments for the retirement pickup, which will fall off next month. So if you take those 2 into account and adjusted bank balance then does match exactly to your financial system. And so the variance bank to book is 0.
Okay.
The second item is the, we call it SM2, but it is actually the report that comes off of the Meta Solutions system, and it is for the month of August. And you can see that it has monthly actuals and it has fiscal year-to-date actuals for your revenues and your expenditures. And all of these numbers I use to create the financial reports packets. So that's the second one. And then the last one is a list of checks over $1,000 for the month of August. And the committee members had questions. And so I was able to pull those checks, and I will go over those quickly with you. There was questions on checks to Macmillan Holdings, and one of the checks was in the amount of, I had these in order, so excuse me. So they were check number 95197 and check 95248, and they were to Macmillan Holdings. And so what that was is AP books for teachers. So this came out of the curriculum budget, and it was paid out of grant funds. So I'm sorry, it didn't come out of curriculum budget. It came out of Fund 590. The next one was Leaving the Village. The check was cut to for an amount of $2,850. And this was for restorative justice workshop registration, partnering with parents to hold students accountability. And this was for a workshop. So that was for an amount of $2,850. The next one was check 95302 to Upslope Solutions. And that is in an amount of $5,934.50. That was for the Employee Code of Conduct, Employee Decision Support, Rubric System and Support. And I think that's, we're going to be engaging in that tomorrow. So that was for, that invoice was for that information that we'll be getting tomorrow. And then teachers teaching teachers, actually the check is under Teacher Synergy, and that is for first grade complete curriculum bundle and for 9 licenses, and that's in the amount of $6,773.20. And the other one was for Seesaw preloaded kindergarten phonics bundle for first grade and kindergarten in the amount of $1,148. And those check numbers were 95262 and 95246. And so those were the questions that came up at the Finance Committee for those particular checks. And that's all I had for my finance report.
Thank you very much. So I need a motion on the floor for Treasurer's item A as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's properly moved and we have a second. Any questions?
Are going to be met with a lot of skepticism.
Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Next item up, Superintendent's report. Dr. Cosby, will you please take us through your item?
Yes. I have approval of our personnel agenda, and I'm going to go through it. Basically, we're asking a recommendation for the following certified resignation. We have a resignation on. We also have a recommendation for corrections in 2 certified positions, and that's a step change. We have a recommendation for approval of another certified position. And then we do have supplementals on the agenda tonight on our personnel agenda. And the things that are on there are things that are associated with academics, such as the IAT positions, and also those things that are associated with band, athletics, and cheer. And that's what we have on there for tonight's.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate that. I need a motion to accept item 6, Superintendent's report, item A, as presented.
There's your moments. Close your home. There is a little
So moved.
cover out there.
Second.
Clear out as we move into the rest of 9.
I have a motion. Can you please mute? Thank you. I have a motion and I have a second. Are there any questions?
I do
Being
have a question.
Go right ahead.
So at our last board meeting, we did have all of the other positions on there. And the next day, I'm doing Zoom at home. And so the student council for Westbrook had 2 students do a presentation at the end of class. 2 students were virtual. And they did this really nice little skit to recruit other students for the student council. I think it was student council or Girls on the Run. So I saw that and I thought, this is what we're looking for. So I think that's what we were looking for, and I didn't know we were taking them all off. Because I happened to know for that one, I saw the very next day after our board meeting. She had the students do a presentation. And I always talk, we need to create student leaders. So for all those positions, there's an opportunity, especially now, when our students can, and I think some of them probably feel even more comfortable because they're in their home, they're on Zoom, they know how to do tic-tac, and they're creative. They can be creative in taking the lead for some of those positions and truly just allowing the teachers to guide them through. So that was my comment. I wanted to share that that presentation from the students at Westbrook.
I would like to respond as well. We did receive the information that was asked for from the people who are requesting, the supplementals who hold the positions, and telling us things like how they were going to do this. Those things came in a little late compared to when we are supposed to turn things in to be, to put in on the agenda, but we have received a lot. There are a lot of things, and I was impressed with the things people said. We have a Lego League. We have advisors of all the different clubs and grade levels, and those are the people who present things like prom, who will, if we're going to try to figure out how to do that type of thing. I know we're going to do our homecoming, and all of these things are done by advisors who do work on supplementals. We have drama, student council, as you mentioned, Girls on the Run. There are a lot of activities that would make the students who are not involved in athletics or band or cheer feel still connected to the schools and to being a part of, what we have going on in the district, and what we hope when they come back, they will continue. So I would like the dilemma is that according to the contract, according to TMEA contract, October 1st is the date that these things have to be approved by. And this contract is huge. I did not know that there was a specific date. I thought we could work towards the date that they would actually receive their pays, which, fall after October 1st. But it was brought to my attention, obviously, as it was brought to you all by Ms. Bruno. October 1st will be here before we have our next meeting. So I'm not sure, if that would mean if we're interested in pursuing that we would have to have another meeting, or how that would look. I mean, a special meeting between now and then, or, I would like, I guess, some input as to how you feel about us moving forward with putting these supplementals back on at some point.
I think if we got the information that we asked for in regards to how those things would be put into place, I would be happy to have another meeting to put those supplementals back on. I think the issue is that board asked what would be done differently in light of the way, students are now no longer in school, and we didn't get that information to see what was actually going to be done.
Right.
And so I don't know that people understand how our feet are held to the fire in the public when funds are being spent and we don't have any information to tell people. We don't know what to say when people in the public are like, hey, how come you guys approved such and such and they're not doing anything? My daughter hasn't gotten a call at all. We have no defense to that, so we want to see what is going to be done before we approve it. That's the bottom line. And if we don't get it, I don't know what is expected of us. Now, luckily for Miss Jeter Freeman, she happened to see whatever it was that she saw, but the rest of us didn't, and if it hadn't been for her saying it, none of us would have known anything.
Right.
So I'm happy to have another meeting. I'm happy to do it. I just want to see what's going to be done differently.
I understand. And like I said, we did receive some of those documents as some we had to send back, you need to give more information. They just don't want, what they did traditionally was tell what their goals were and how they plan to meet them, but we needed that piece. How is that going to look in a virtual environment? So, and we did start to receive them, but it was already past the time. So,
Yeah, we do have a meeting, a workshop on the 27th. So I think for those teachers that really understand and can put together something like what where the students are engaged, I think we go with those. My feeling for those that can do that, we do.
Thank you, Ms. Jeter Freeman. Thank you, Ms. Bozeman, Mr. Andrews, or Mr. Scares. Any comments?
The negotiated.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Norm.
Okay, thank you. The negotiated agreement says that we have to, if we approve by October 1st. But I've said all along, these are very uncertain times. And if by chance the October 1st date comes and goes without any approval on these contracts, does the negotiated agreement speak to whether or not we can approve after the October 1 date? Because I didn't see that there.
I don't believe it speaks to if we can. I think that people who are, putting in for the supplementals, a lot of them will tell you that they've already started, just like the person who Ms. Jeter Freeman saw. And so they have to encapsulate all of that and get it to you and show you what they're doing, because they only get paid. They get paid on a certain schedule. And that doesn't mean they're not working prior to that, during that time. And sometimes their ultimate event, like the drama team, they put on a little spring play, but they, engage the kids. They find who they're going to be using. They do things with them along the way. So I think to hit the pay schedule that some of them, I'm not sure. I could be speaking out of turn and nobody's here to speak for it, but I did have one person tell me that, they do work for they have that as part of what they do. They've been doing this for years. It's a part of their income. And so it matters to them when we make the decision. And according to the contract, I don't see if it were me, I would potentially, do whatever was needed if we don't do it before October 1st to see if we could do it later. But to answer your question, I don't think it's addressed right then. Anything, I believe, can be addressed through an MOU, an understanding, with the union. But I think what would happen would be, as far as Ms. Allen would be concerned, that would change our pay and how we do it and all of that.
Well, I think those involved would understand that. Those who would need the money, I'm sure would rather take it late than not at all. So if by chance we have to do an MOU, if whatever happens and that October 1 date comes and goes and we don't have an approval, then I think that's something that we just have to discuss, at that time. And I think that under any other circumstances, I think they may have had enough time to provide us what was asked for at the previous meeting to show us, okay, what is the plan? What are you going to be doing? I don't know.
Do we have to approve them all at the same time, or do we approve the ones that are clearly, well, I've only seen one that we know were, I don't know, that have the information.
The ones that were placed on the agenda and that were removed, we had received justification for all of those. So the supplementals that were an advisor or club, those are the ones that we received the justification statements for, and I passed those along to Dr. Cosby. So those are the ones she's referring to. We can get those to you as soon as possible. Dr. Cosby had to get a chance to review them, and we can email them to you guys so that you can review them as well.
I agree with the idea that we could be. I would certainly be receptive to a special meeting or emergency meeting to consider the others. And with our workshop coming up, quite possibly that could be an item on that agenda to go through those things as well. And I personally, I think if everybody that is concerned and wants to be considered at, before October 1st, if they get those materials in, I see no reason why we couldn't get that done before October 1st. If everybody just goes ahead and gets busy and complies with the requests that have been made by the board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Andrews. All right. Here is, I completely agree. Dr. Cosby, I want to ask you, when did you get that information?
It's been coming in, and I would say we had it when we put those on, they had started to come in. And so that's been, and a few more came after, some more came after. And
the final step was given to Dr. Todd.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Dr. Davis, we're in the middle of the motion, and I want to make sure that the board and Dr. Cosby gets out the information. If you give me a moment, I just want to hear her through, and we'll go from there. Go right ahead, Dr. Cosby.
A lot of those had already come in. We did not have them all, but a lot of them had already come in.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I agree with my counterparts along the lines of the importance of the extracurriculars and the ancillaries. However, Ms. Bozeman made a great point that we as a board have been asking for information from the very beginning along the lines of how all of this looks. There is a time where, because we are 100% virtual, things don't look the same, and they're not the same. We don't have students in the district. The interaction between the advisors and students, I'm sure it's quite different on a virtual platform. So what all the board had asked for previously was the opportunity to see exactly how we were going to be implementing these programs, so that, like Ms. Bozeman said, if we are asked, which we are asked all the time, how are you doing that? We would have the information. Information is key, and accountability is important in this district. I mean, when we ask for things, we're not just asking to ask. We're asking because we need the information, and it's not fair to the board when we don't have the information, and then we are pushed and rushed to make a decision based on no information. So again, I think it's just important for people to understand, like Ms. Bozeman said, how this board works and how the district works as a whole. There's a huge accountability piece on all parties.
Yes, I hear you. I'm sure that we have many teachers, and particularly those who have supplementals, listening as well. And I'm sure they will get those to you. As Mr. Scare said earlier, this is a unique time. They've done what they traditionally do, even though we are in a asking them to do things a little differently. I guess what I'm asking for is some grace, and that they can get those things to us so that you'll have them in plenty of time to go over them. And then hopefully on the 27th, just have to, because that's 10 days.
I believe it's the 26th.
Yeah, on the 26th. I was thinking the 26th as well.
You guys want to have this on Sunday.
So it would be on the 26th, and we would make sure that you could get those things in advance so that you could read them, and it wouldn't take you that much longer during that meeting. I mean, I could field questions on that day, and then we could be prepared. And then it would be up to you if someone doesn't get something in and you want to maybe consider it at a later date, because for whatever reason, we have people in different situations, and maybe something that you'd be willing to listen to for a reason why maybe they weren't able to get it in time for the 27th approval. But if we're all okay with that, then that is what I will, send out. We already have some, as I said. I'll get you those as soon as possible. And then any others will know that they have a few more days to get those things in.
Mm-hmm. And what would be preferable is if you could get those before the 26th, because here's what typically happens. We get stuff last minute. It's hard to really navigate what is, what it is that we are looking at. But if you can get them to us earlier, and I'm not saying a week early or anything, I'm just saying the meeting's on Saturday, the 26th, we could have them within that week. We could at least have an opportunity to get our questions answered.
Yes, that's what I had suggested. I will get them to before the 26th so that you don't have to do anything more than just, take that vote. Ask a couple of questions, but yes, I'll get them to you before.
Okay. And, given that too, Mr. Scares made a really good point on, because we're in a different time right now with the way that the district is running. I mean, this is not normal. And we've been saying that from day one. I think it's important that everybody can respect that there are changes going on at every single day. Things are evolving. This is not normal, the way that we're doing many things within the district, and give the board some grace along the lines of giving grace throughout the district and trying to pull and make sure that things happen the way that they do. So when things don't happen the way they do, I just think that we all have to, and I think you said it last meeting, Ms. Bozeman, be gentle and kind along the lines of how we work together to make sure that we can make sure that everything is in place. Mm-hmm. So again, I've heard each and every one of you. I know the motion is on the floor. I would like to have Ms. Allen call the roll if there are no other comments. Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Mr. Andrews?
Okay, I get confused. So,
okay, Mr. Andrews, that the motion is on the floor for the superintendent item A, personnel agenda, as it is, as presented.
No.
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay. Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes, abstain on A4.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes, motion passes. Superintendent item has been approved as presented. Next item is item 7, and these are discussion items and updates. First of all, let me go back to the board docs here. We want to talk about our board retreat on the 26th, and that's on Saturday. I'm going to open it up to Dr. Cosby. Will you please address the board along the lines of what this retreat will look like on your part?
Yes. On the 27th, tomorrow we're going to have an all-day training with Dr. David Braswell. He is, he's done a whole lot of things. He's been a board member. He's been a state senator. He's been a superintendent. He's held a lot of positions that are involved and related to schools. He has been asked by BASA, which is a superintendent, the Buckeye Association of School Superintendents, to present for us about how to hold people accountable to all the things that are the expectations of them in a workplace and in a school district in particular. So tomorrow he'll be working with my administrative teams, and we're also able to invite some people who are hoping to move into administrative positions. So I believe we'll have 20 people in attendance tomorrow, and they're going to learn how to use a process that allows us to look at each situation in a fair way, almost like it doesn't matter if you know who the person is, but you find out what the situation is and you find out what the circumstances surrounding what happened. So I like to use the example because it's easy for me. Let's say someone has had 3 tardies to work, they've been written up. They've been told on your 4th tardy, you're going to get a day of suspension or whatever it's going to be. And the person has the 4th, tardy. So do they automatically get a day of suspension? no, because you have to look at extenuating circumstances. It turns out that person was tardy because maybe they had to get their wife to the hospital who was having a baby. So it was out of their control. So that person, would be told, okay, I understand, and you move forward. One of the things that happens, particularly when we've had a lot of a change in admin and change in, some of the positions such as superintendent and all, is that we get a little off track with how we're holding staff, and that's all staff, administrators, teachers, all staff, classified, everyone accountable for following, a code of conduct. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. So on the 26th, you're going to also meet with Dr. Bradwell. And at that time, he is going to have you work on an ethical philosophy statement. And if you would like, that is something that can be released to the press. He's also going to have you work on a minimum employee expectation list. So somewhat we'll look at the code of conduct, because my understanding is that this work was done in full out detail about 10 years ago. And but it does need to be relooked at, revamped. Now, what we're working on tomorrow has already been adjusted and aligned to the teacher's contract as well as to the ORC, the Ohio Revised Code. So that piece has already happened. This will be the board's opportunity to have input on this and to find out more about how this will take place, so that you'll know, when people, if you were to hear from people in the community or staff members, well, this happened and we don't think it was fair, and why did this happen? You'll be confident in saying, well, I know the training that my admin went through, and if they're issuing consequences or, holding people accountable, we know that it was done in a way that's appropriate. So it's going to be on the 26th, and I believe it's 9 to 12. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that was the time frame that you had asked for,
Yeah.
and so I believe that's what he accommodated.
Yeah, I know initially you said 9 to 3. And
He said he could do 9 to 3.
yeah, and if you need 9 to 3, let us know, because it sounds like to me you're talking about reinforcing the code of conduct within the Trotwood-Madison City School District, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
yeah, but I think he feels like he can get it done 9 to 12. And of course, if you would ever like to continue that, or you need more information or want more, I'm sure he'd be willing to do that if you find his information. I've worked with him before. I've seen him in many places present and do his work. So I think you will be pleased with it.
And I apologize if I took off 3 hours of the workshop. I didn't know that, if there's some pre-work that we need to do or that we can have prior to the retreat on Saturday, which might make it a little bit easier and make it move along maybe smoother from a 3-hour meeting, 6-hour meeting to a 3-hour meeting, let us know and we will accommodate.
As I said, he's done so many things, and he also was going to do a little bit of what, I know at times we've had other people come in and do presentations on, superintendent and school board and how we work together and things like that. So I think he was willing to add more things to this meeting. So those things don't have to happen. I believe this 3 hours is going to be sufficient to bring you up to speed on what you need to know about the code of conduct.
Okay. Thank you. And it would be great if we could get some information. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Peter Freeman, do you remember, I think Dr. Roxanne Wagner was the superintendent back then, and she initiated the code of conduct and really and truly was building on it. It's been a while, since I've even heard mention of it.
Well, there's code of conducts and the policies that we actually reviewed and approved tonight. So I would say we go back and look at what we just approved tonight and make sure that the information we're going to get is in alignment with what we did just approve.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one nice thing about the policies that we approve, and as we get more information, they can change, and things always and constantly are. So, maybe we put the cart before the horse with that particular policy based on what the new information might be, so we can always go back and review it.
I would hope that it would still be in line with Neola, though, because it was, I can't imagine that whatever he's going to talk about would be so much different than what we would get from Neola. So I feel confident that what we approved is going to be in line with what he talks about.
I agree with you. I think that basically he's going to ask you, what do you want to see as our code of conduct? And so even if we were to pull that out and even use that as a starting point, but I imagine that if that's what, and he may have some suggestions about things that maybe we hadn't thought about, but we can accept them or reject them.
And my comment regarding the policy is, Denise, Ms. Moore, you mentioned any pre-work, so that would be something we could do to look to see what we currently have in view of what he's presenting. And I'm sure that they will, because I'm sure, as you say, Ms. Bozeman, he's not going to present us anything that's not in line with Neola.
Yeah, that makes sense, Ms. Freeman. Absolutely. I am in total agreement of that, just making sure. But again, if there's anything additional, just make sure that we can get it prior to the meeting.
For sure.
And the second part of that, you mentioned that he does board superintendent relation seminars. And if it's the pleasure of the board, I know that when you came in, Dr. Cosby, things happened so quickly along the lines of just, COVID and the changes in the district and all of these other things. I would be open to scheduling another retreat with him for board superintendent relations, and just so that we can hear what he has to say. And also it's a review for all of us. This is the first time we've worked with you. This is the first time you've worked with us. and again, under these extenuating circumstances, it's different. It is a lot different to what we're even accustomed to. Things are just moving so fast.
Well, what I would like to suggest is that we wait till after the 27th and see if you feel like he's the person, because there are other, places, that offer that type. But I agree with you. I would like for us to have that opportunity to sit and talk about, those kinds of things. How are we going to work together and all of those things? And so, yes, if we decide that, I think he's on point with what we like, and we'd like to, then we move forward. I won't mention it to him in the event that you want to select someone else.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And that retreat is September 26th. Okay, and we're looking at 9 to noon, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions about the retreat, board? Okay, next is the remaining plan for blended learning. Dr. Cosby.
Okay, so I would like to start. I have a few things I would like to share with you that are going on right now, and I feel like it's all related. It's all related, what we're doing now and what we'll do at the end of the 9 weeks. But I'd like to first make a comment. I was thinking about the SRO situation, and I appreciate what Ms. Bozeman said about maybe using this, or maybe it was Mr. Andrews, as an opportunity to maybe build relationships. And me and Janice may need to look into this, but if this is so different and we're having to do this and ask him to do things differently because our children are, at home at this time, at least at this period while they're there, maybe we can pay some of his salary out of COVID money, because we're asking him to work in a different way because we are working remotely. Things like, not wearing his uniform, doing the things we're asking, and maybe we can even encourage some, relationship building opportunities in what he does. So if you all don't mind, I would like for me and Janice to sort of think through what that might look like. And then some of that money that we're paying him, we may be able to use from some COVID dollars. Okay, so back to the reentry. I had said, and I have been keeping up with on a weekly basis the things that have changed. As you know, I've given you the September 10th update. I mentioned our filtration system. I mentioned that principals were asked to continue to look and determine classroom requirements, things like this. This week, Mr. Howard has said that we will be sending out the PPE that's been stored at central office out to the buildings and things like that. We already have these things, but they have not been distributed. We have developed an administrative reopening task force. We formed that, and the first official meeting is going to be early next week. We've been talking about this and working on it, but we narrowed down the people who, really get this ball rolling. So that's happening. I also did say that I would like to also let you know the things that are happening. And we are going to start putting out, as we have any positive cases, that's a mandate that we announce it to the community and to staff, and we have to do it in writing, and email is acceptable. And I understand that people who've been calling home have been asked not to do that because, some people are getting a lot of calls. And so we've decided not to go the call route, but instead to do emails, social. It'll be on our website, so we'll do it that way. So we did have a staff member who reported that her son had tested positive, not her, but her son. But we really still wanted to be very cautious. So there was one person, when we looked at contact tracing, who had been close enough, within that 6 feet and for longer than 15 minutes speaking with her. And so that person has went home and they're watching for symptoms until we get the results of that staff member's test. So the staff member is being tested, but we haven't got the results back. We did have another staff member who reported that they tested positive. Again, they are working from home now because they're having to quarantine. And then there was one staff member who was in close proximity, and they are also working from home, checking their symptoms and all as well. So I had said I would add those things, even though, again, they are going to be on our websites. They are going to become things that we will put out publicly because that's what we have been asked to do. So still a lot of really good things are happening, and our teachers are getting stronger with the ability to do the virtual. And I think that's important regardless of whether or not we are coming back blended or whether or not we continue this for a little while, because we want our kids to get that instruction. And I know that in conversation with teachers and with administrators and directors, we do want to make sure that in the event that we come back in, that if our teachers needed to go out, a building or a group or something along those lines, that we can turn it on and do the remote learning appropriately. So we continue to really get that going and try to get it as well as we can. We're doing a lot of really neat things that can happen either place. Today I was in a meeting with the curriculum department and the student services. They had a combined meeting, and they were talking about what they call learning circles. And that's when we look at each student individually, and teachers put in what interventions they're doing for these students to help them, grow and get better. And the really cool thing about it is community partners can also access this and see what types of incentives are being used for a particular student, what their issues are. Let's say it's attendance, or maybe it's a core subject like math, but they're, maybe at a daycare during the day. This person can access that and they can find out how to help the students. These are just some things I wanted you to know that are going on that will help our students either place that we find them. So that's what's been going on as far as us getting ready. I mean, we know, and we are having our principals look at scheduling, because when we bring back our students, we're going to have to look at what teachers will be working with those students who choose to remain online, and what teachers will be face-to-face with the students who come in. So we have to get our numbers. I'm working with Miss Ella Jordan Isaacs to develop, she actually has a really good survey that we are going to put out, because the first thing we need to know are what are those numbers going to look like? How many people are going to say, I want my child to, stay remote, or I want my child to come in. So she's developing a really good, I have to see it again. We saw it once, and she said she would work on that and get it to me so we can get that out. We are halfway through the 9 weeks, and so we want to start gathering that type of data, because that's going to impact, like I said, how many kids would be in a classroom, how much space could we have between them, all those things. But this is in process. We are working to make those things happen. So we are doing a lot of things.
I'm going to open it up for discussion. Any questions, comments for the superintendent? Okay. Yeah. We appreciate.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my phone. What does the first day look like when students arrive to school? What happens?
Yeah, well, when we were talking about that type of thing, the student arrives to school, they have to get their temperatures taken. We take them into the building. Depending on the particular building, we'll assign them certain doors. Like the high school has more than one door that students could go into. And then again, that's where the scheduling comes in. We would have to determine, are the students going to still be able to follow their schedule? That's going to be contingent upon how many students are actually choosing to come back blended versus how many are staying out. So those are some questions that we're going to come up with scenarios for, but until we get back this data, we won't know. Elementary, my understanding is one of the really good ways to do it is to pod your kids, to make sure that kids only interact with the same 4 or 5 students. So even if you were to have 10 kids in a room, you would have them work together in groups of 5. So if someone were to come in and we find out they were positive, the whole class wouldn't have to go home, just potentially those kids who are near that student. That's one of the things. So there are we're learning a lot. I mean, as you said, most of these school districts just went back September 8th. I had my superintendent's meeting today, and we're finding out, lessons learned. What things would they do differently? What things worked well? I know, for example, one of the districts that's back during this nice weather, they've put up tents and things, and they are, having students eat outside. One of the things I thought was very interesting, they made the teachers, of course, as teachers always do, when I say made, it's one of the things we do, you do a seating chart. Well, he suggested do not do a seating chart only by last names, because what happened was a student tested positive. They were all seniors in the class, but there was one freshman. The freshman in the class had a brother, and of course they had the same last name. And so when they sent all the kids home, they told the parents that the senior could not come back to school because he was being quarantined. Turns out it was the freshman sitting in a senior class, but they didn't have first names. So we're trying to pick up as many tips to make this as easy as possible. And that may not seem like a big deal, but it was to those parents. They were furious. And they were not letting the superintendent off the hook. They were like, you made a mistake. You sent the wrong child home, and so we don't want to have mistakes. We want to try to come up with as many scenarios as we can. Thus, the work of this task force, and also, reaching out to, different organizations and people to find out, what have you learned? What can we take advantage of? So, but the first day would be social distancing, would be going in a classroom with a few students, would be getting your temperature checked, wearing a mask. Our kids would be expected to wear a mask. I mean, those are the things that would happen. When we would not allow a lot of visitors in the building, because we're going to try to maintain as much, space as we can for just the kids and just the staff. Our staff is worried, so we would have to continue to, of course, have all of the PPE and things available for them. And it's a lot, because there are going to be some people who can work now, but they've already notified us, with doctor's notes and things, that if we have crowds, which having students in the building would be considered a crowd, then they would work from home. The doctors have already said that. So we have some teachers who are able to work now because they, don't have other people in the room. So it's a lot to work through, Mr. Scarce, and we want to try to do it excellently, not just, okay, we want to do it right.
I did have some more questions, but I don't want to take up all the time, just in case somebody else had some.
Go right ahead, Mr. Scarce.
I feel like even if the discussion never came up of the possibility of the kids going back into the classroom before 9 weeks, like by week 5, which we are already in, I feel like there should have already been an assessment done with families to determine who's coming back. Like, we should already have that information. We can't get to the 9 weeks trying to ascertain that information, because then that puts us past the 9 weeks. I think there are plenty of prototype school districts within our region that are in school right now. And I'm not talking about charter schools. I mean public schools within Montgomery County who are offering blended opportunities to families that can, tell us, this is the way that we're doing it. These are the things that work. I just feel like we are behind the 8 ball with being back in the classroom. And I hope we do not wait until the 9 weeks to get the information that we need to go back into the classroom on the 9th week. Does that make sense?
Of course it makes sense. I addressed that. I said that we're in week 4. We're not in the 5th week. This is the 4th week. And we're already gathering information. I mean, I mentioned a few things that we're gathering. All of the administrators, the directors have meetings that we attend, and we gather information, and we are already getting our principals and things working on this. So at the end of the 9 weeks, we will have, a recommendation, for the board about going in and what it would look like, or whether or not you just determine that we need more time online. So we will have that for you, and we will be ready. I mean, we're going to have the buildings and things ready. And I talked to Mr. Howard about that. That part is going to be the easy part. We can do that in a matter of days, finish up getting, sanitation stations, that kind of thing, which we already have most of that done. We have so much of that work is already done. The issue again would be, and I told you that we're getting our survey out right away so that we can find out. And, I think this is a really a better time than had we sent a survey again out 2 weeks ago. We talked at our last board meeting, and someone said I was pulling my hair out. I think it was Miss Jeter Freeman. I was like, oh, it's crazy, but it got better. So I think now for parents to make that informed decision, because some of them may want to come in, but there may be some who it's working for who want to stay out. So when we ask this time, we want to know from their experience what it is they want to do. And I think we're on time. It would be wonderful if we had more time, but we are where we are, but we're confident we can get it done.
When is that survey going to be out?
As soon as I get to see it again. I saw it once with, as I said, Ella, and I will look at it again. And then we'll go in and get it out.
Like within the next couple days?
Probably so, yes.
Okay. So by Monday, it should be out?
Today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yes, if you include the weekend, Mr. Scares.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scares. Question. Even with the reentry plan, I know that we've had some lengthy conversation of what that would actually look like and a slow integration of blended learners coming in the district building by building. Are you still looking at that model? Or are you just looking at opening up all the buildings at the same time after the 10 weeks, given the information or the data that you've gathered? Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh, I do believe that our initial thought was to do a slow roll in, potentially with the younger students, and then sort of work our way up. But there are a lot of different options depending upon the number of students that want to come back. If it's a lot of students that want to come back to the high school, which my guess might be that it would be, we may even have to run like different, day schedules. Some grade levels or students by name come in certain days and others. If you'll remember, we did a lot of that work early on, looked at different schedules. And so once we get this data, we're like I said, we're meeting early next week, and we're going to pull all these things back out and look at our options to develop what ends up being the best option for us based on the number of students who make choices about what they want to do. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'll tell you, as we were talking about it, a lot of people wanted to try the idea of blended, if for no other reason, just to have a comparison. How would kids do if there were only like half the students in a classroom and less distractions, and how will they do? I mean, I can see us doing a lot of looking into what can the future look like. We don't just see this as like a one-time thing, but we're going to find that some students thrive in one environment and some thrive in another. And so I think we're all taking it very seriously, and we're, interested in how this can work. I think our biggest concern, and I will say it because a lot of staff have mentioned it to me. And when I say a lot, I mean, I've talked to my directors, I've talked to our TMEA, I've talked to random people, because at this point I need to ask the question, how are you feeling about coming back? And the fact that the flu season is coming, along with not knowing what's going to happen with a potential second wave of this virus, people are still very frightened about coming back. And so I think that, we have to make sure that everyone feels confident that when we come back, whether it's at the end of this 9 weeks, we start week 10 blended, that they feel confident that they're coming back and they are going to be safe. So I think that's very, very, very important. I understand today from my meeting this morning that we remain in the red. And I guess our numbers have been going up and down. We haven't got low enough to get out of the red, but they're a little better this week than they have been in Montgomery County. So that's good. And that's when I say the number of new cases, that type of thing. So, it's a lot going on, and we need to just continue to monitor it all, because I want to feel confident, and I want my teachers to feel that we are keeping them in mind as we make these decisions.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate the update. Is it possible to share that survey with the board as well prior to it going out?
Yes.
Just so that we know exactly.
I don't mind sending it to you prior to. My only little smile is just that I don't want Mr. Scares to say, hold up, that's going to make it a day later getting out of there, but I can send it to you. And you guys can just individually say to me, you know, it's okay, or could you look at this question or something like that. So maybe we'll add in just like a day or so to give you an opportunity to give me some feedback.
I don't think that's a problem at all. Is it, Mr. Scaris?
I don't know. Monday's pretty tight.
Okay, you know what? Can we have a MOU, memorandum of understanding, that maybe we're not going to hit that date?
I'm trying, Mr. Scares. Yeah. I'm trying here.
I guess what I'm saying is right now we got to just all be flexible, period. That goes not only for staff, but for the board. All right. We got to be flexible. And I think that, you know, as things go, we can all do that in lockstep. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And if there's nothing else on that subject matter, Miss Allen, you're up with comments.
Yes, I did have a couple of comments. I had sent the treasurer's update to you guys. I think it was just yesterday, last evening. So I did attach it to the board docs, also for your perusal. But I wanted to bring your attention to two items. The first item is I did have an opportunity to sign an agreement to receive the $1 million from the Montgomery County CARES Act monies. And so I'm very, very excited about that. It's similar to the ESSER monies or the Federal CARES Act dollars that we will use to reimburse everything that we have bought from the general fund monies for anything that's COVID related. So that could be the curriculum piece. We have the infiltration system that we're going to be buying for each school building. And so those things. So we have outlined a plan to spend that money. So I'm really, really excited. I have been working very closely with the county for the last couple of weeks to get all the information that they needed, W-9s. They wanted the school charter. So if anybody knows where to get the school charter, I actually called the Historical Society, Trotwood's Historical Society, and he was going to still look for Claude Keeling, I think it was. So he's going to look for that. But I was able to get everything else. The other thing I just wanted to bring to your attention that I was able to do a presentation yesterday for OASBO, and that's the Ohio Association for School Business Officials. And it was to 75 treasurers and assistant treasurers throughout the state of Ohio. And my topic was federal counts, excess costs, and catastrophic costs. So by a lot of research and working with the staff here at our building, I was able to get through the 45-minute presentation. But I hope that I served or presented Trotwood well yesterday. So there's a couple other things in the report, but you can look at that at your leisure. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, superintendent comments. Dr. Cosby, please.
I did ask the principals to send me some attendance data that they have that they could share. And so I would like to share a little bit of that with you. It is going well. At the ELC, we have 409 total enrollment. Active students is 382. There are 27 that have not been engaged. They're making the phone calls and sending out emails and trying to get that connection there. At Madison Park, second grade has 167 total students. We did do testing this week. 91% have tested. 97% of the students are engaged. 5 of them have been inactive due to Wi-Fi needs, and 100% have made connections with their staff. For Wi-Fi, we did today finally get those hotspots. We got some hotspots in, so you may know of a few people who may have been waiting for them. If you do, you can let us know, because we did get some more and we can get those out. Then for that was the second grade, third grade, total enrollment is 180 students. 96% have tested and 100% have been engaged. At Westbrook Village, total enrollment is 386. 8 students have had no engagement as of 9/11. 2 picked up their Chromebooks. 2 of those 8, they should be online by now. They should already be on by 9:15. And 4 who have inconsistent or no Wi-Fi access, as I said, we would be sure that they would get taken care of. At the middle school, our total enrollment is 646, active students 580, not engaged or consistently but being contacted is 46, 20 of whom need hotspots, 20 that we've made home visits for and calls. Some are pending withdrawals, but for those 20, they have not been able to make that connection. Those are the type of people that we really have to do then the extra, step out to see what's going on. High school total enrollment is 754, active is 692, not engaged at this point is 62. All 62 have been contacted by phone and or email. Next week, the home visits will be conducted for that. So as of 9/17, the high school, and that's today, as of today, they've made 950 contacts, which were conducted by support staff. So we're really on it, keeping up with the students, trying to find the few that we have not had any connection with. And some of those, at this point in a traditional school year, you start to do that count of, how many students have you seen? And then the others you're looking, did they withdraw? Are they going someplace else? And we need to find that out. So that's the kind of work that, we're at now. So I just wanted to share that with you. As far as other comments, like I said, things are going well. I think that everyone is in agreement that at some point having our staff and students in the same place, is the ultimate goal. And we're all excited about making that blended piece happen. But for now, we're doing good with what we're doing. So I don't think you guys have to feel bad that we're all remote. I think we're doing a good job of it. That's all I got.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I especially like the numbers. Really appreciate you sharing the attendance along the lines of how many students we're actually serving. That's good. And I'm glad that you're consistently watching that. And I'm glad that the principals and the staff are really being very mindful of who we are not connecting with. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, item 10, any board committee reports?
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry. I didn't specifically have any any policy committee reports. I wanted to thank Ms. Bozeman for leading the charge in the update. I was unable to make the Neola meeting. But one thing I did want to kind of bring to light, or at least kind of see if it's possible, is policy around things that we've discussed prior to in terms of curriculum and in-classroom instruction, things like what Mrs. Freeman talks about, coding as as one of the computer sciences, and then the African American history requirement for grades K through 12. The possibility of making those policies instead of recommendations or requests from the board to the staff, and just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I like that idea. I most certainly do. I know that we've talked about many subject matters that we want our kids to be exposed to, and the coding, we've been talking about that for a very long time. Ms. Jeter Freeman has brought back some amazing and really great recommendations, even those that are at no cost to the district, just so that we can integrate it in some form or fashion. And I know, Mr. Scarce, you talked about the Black history portion of what it is that we should be doing within the district. and can do. So I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Next up, item 11 are the board comments. Mr. Andrews, please.
I don't really have any comments this evening. I think it's been very productive, but I don't actually have any comments this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andrews. Mr. Scares?
Thank you. I think it has been a really good meeting this evening. I've appreciated the updated information. A couple of things I want to kind of bring to light or kind of reiterate, very, very short, is while Montgomery County is in the red, there are several public school districts that have opted to be in class, whether it is a traditional 5-day-a-week option or a blended option. Vandalia, Butler, Oakwood, New Lebanon, Miamisburg, all of these districts are within Montgomery County and facing the exact same circumstances that we are as a district. I do understand that, there was an expectation of a 9-week period where the district would be completely virtual. But even watching the governor's press conference today, he had Dr. Manning which is the chief of staff for Cincinnati Children's, provided information that I think, in my opinion, is absolutely essential to opening up our schools even before that 9-week period. And I quote, Dr. Manning from Cincinnati Children said, cleaning, masks, these are things that keep children safe. And if the children are safe, then the teachers are safe. I personally don't take light in the fact whether or not, teachers feel safe on returning to work. But we also have to take into consideration that we feel safe in just about every other aspect of our lives as we process through this pandemic. You bump into people at Walmart, you see people eating in restaurants. And so I just want us to kind of take into consideration that while the world continues to evolve, that we use the information that has been provided with our children back in the district. And of course, I'm going to be a proponent of getting them back sooner than later, just from the psychological standpoint that our children are going to have to deal with over the next couple of years because of all of this. They need to be in the classroom with each other. They have to be. That is essential to the way these children learn. It is absolutely essential. So I can continue to ask. I hope that our children are in the classroom, especially our K through 3 children, prior to that 9-week period, because it is a safe environment. And I believe our teachers can create safe environments to do what they've been called to do, even in the middle of a pandemic. So I thank the superintendent and her cabinet and the staff for doing all that they have done over the past couple of weeks, to make sure that we create a safe environment. And the last thing I'll say is that I feel like things like the survey to ascertain where families are, whether they want to send their kids back or whether they don't, even though this is the first week, should have been information that we should have had the first week, knowing that our district would have been all virtual for the first 9 weeks anyway. So I think that is information that still puts us behind the 8 ball. And maybe if a survey could be put together as quickly as the second survey that was put out to find out how many parents wanted to allow their children to participate in extracurricular activities, then maybe we'd probably be further along. But thank you very much for the information and for the time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Scares. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Jeter Freeman, please.
I don't think I have anything else. I think it's been a really good meeting, good dialogue, good discussions. We need to look at those first 2 weeks where those students had assignments that was supposed to be practice to make sure that teachers aren't really nailing those parents for for that work the first 2 weeks, because we have to consider those first 2 weeks where we had the hiccups with some downtime and even just parents learning how to navigate through that. So other than that, be safe.
Thank you, Ms. Jeter Freeman. We appreciate your comments. Vice President Bozeman?
I don't really have much to say either. I do echo everyone's sentiments. Good meeting. We had a lot of great dialogue, got a lot of things clarified, which is good. Dr. Cosby, great work. You and your cabinet, I know you're all working really hard. I appreciate everything that you're doing and that you're going to be doing. I did actually get some information from a school in Cleveland. I haven't read it yet. I'll read it and pass it along. But they actually did what Mr. Scarce was alluding to earlier about having African American history all the way through school and then also as a graduation requirement. So I haven't read it yet, but I will look through it and pass it along because it was almost like a guideline as to how, if that's something that we do want to pursue, which it sounded like we did before. It's already been done. And so that might be a good, something for us to take a look at. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Madam Vice President. We appreciate your comments. My comments are, first and foremost, I wanted to say thank you for all the folks that are still with us here this evening and those that are in virtual land. And I also want to say that I'm very hopeful that as we move forward, we can go beyond PPE, like Dr. Edwards said, and actually get that information within the district. I'm excited about the upcoming retreat on the 26th and sitting down and talking about the code of conduct and being a part of that whole process. Dr. Cosby, I want to congratulate you and your cabinet for the work that you've done in the last 4 weeks. I got to say, I got my phone in my hand because I have so many texts from parents that are just, they are over the top about our educators. The comments are just, they are so, they're just excited. They're excited about their kids. They're excited about what their teachers are doing. I'm excited about what our staff is doing. And I just happen to have this one open, and I'm sure there's many, many more. And I've asked Dr. Cosby to let the board know what's going on with the teachers that are out there, and they are doing the assessments at home and they're dropping in on kids. But Mrs. Edmonds, and I believe she's at Madison Park, she rocks. We're so proud to be a Ram. Miss Edmonds, you are fantastic. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on and on. That's the kind of feedback that a board wants about what's going on in the district. Of course, there are things that happen that aren't so positive, but gosh, you know what? There is so much more positive. And if we could we hear from the stuff that's not so positive, and that's the stuff that we share and we have to comment and we have to talk about and converse with. But gosh, can we get more of this? I
have plenty too, and I have pictures, and we've talked about even doing certificates, and
yes, I want to recognize those teachers.
We do those types of things.
Yeah, we want to recognize those teachers. We want to commend them for their work. We want those kind of things to be best practices. They are going over and above. I've got pictures of teachers. I mean, I'm just like, wow, those parents don't have to share that, but they took the time to do it. So again, I want to commend the staff. I want to commend the teachers that are out there every single day being as creative as you can and as you already are. I can see that by a lot of these text messages that I've been receiving. So again, thank you. Additionally, I just want to say that tonight's meeting was good. It was good conversation. There are some things I just want everybody to keep in mind. This is not the norm. We are constantly changing. Things are ebbing and flowing. Nothing is in stone. whenever there is an issue or concern, please always know that the board is open and available, and we're very much accessible. I want to thank Ms. Bruno for her comments this evening. Thank you very much. We want to continue to be the best that we can, but I just reiterate, this is new. This first 4 weeks is new for all of us. Things are constantly changing. We don't know what will happen in the next couple of weeks. The governor could come out and say everybody's purple and nobody's going back. I'm just saying, all right? Or not. So given that, I think we're in a good place. I think we're doing really well. And let's just keep up the good work. And thank you very, very much. Next, I need a motion to adjourn. Not
So
everybody at once. I only have, can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and we have a second. Are there any questions? No, Mr. Scares, there are no questions about adjournment.
I have a question.
Oh, God. What's your question, Mr. Scares?
I hope this is our last virtual meeting.
Okay. Mr. Scares, I'll give you a call offline. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. If there are no other questions, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll as quick as you can?
I think was it Mrs. Bozeman that made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes, meeting adjourned.